Good morning. Dan asked me to share this story, and you have to excuse me if I'm a little nervous, but I'm going to try to relax. My first marriage, I was married for almost 5 years, and we decided it was time to have kids. So it didn't take long, and we were successful. And at my 3-month appointment, routine sonogram, just checking to see if everything was okay. Surprise, it's twins. Terrified, scared, appalled, all those feelings that I had. But as the pregnancy progressed, my marriage was falling apart. He was lying to me, he was not home much, that kind of thing. And he made it perfectly clear that he really didn't want to be a husband and father. So I concentrated on my babies as they were growing inside of me and took care of myself and ignored what was going on with him. I was working in a factory midnight to 8 a.m., so I was gone overnight and home and just concentrated on my babies. And after a week in the hospital and a C-section, I had 2 perfect, identical twin girls. When the girls were about 6 weeks old, my ex didn't come home until in the middle of the night, and so I met him at the door, and we decided that it was over, so he left. I was terrified at the thought of raising these 2 babies on my own. But then it didn't take long before I realized that I really wasn't alone. I had my family, especially my parents, friends, neighbors, and my home church, all gathered around me and my babies and showed us love and support. So, God was definitely working through them to help me and my babies. With all that help, I was able to go back to work, and I was actually able to live in my apartment with just the babies, with a lot of help, for about 5 months. And then eventually I had to move in with my parents because I got laid off from my job, which was a godsend because I was exhausted, trying to sleep a little bit and take care of babies during the day. But God had me, and I was settling into my new normal and thought, well, okay, this is what I got to do. Then God had a different plan for me. I met this man who needed me, I think, as much as I needed him. We fell in love, we dated. We got engaged when the girls were 1 and married when they were a year and a half. And my ex didn't have anything to do with my babies, with our girls. He signed the papers when we signed the divorce papers, so we didn't even have to contact him. And so Mike was able to adopt the girls with no issue. That was 33 years ago, and God has continued to bless us beyond our imagination. Both girls are married now, living in Virginia. That's how we ended up in Virginia. We are blessed with 2 beautiful granddaughters, and I truly believe that God had a plan for our family. Our girls were supposed to be who they are, and Mike and I were supposed to be together.
So yes, you get 2 Supons for the price of 1 today. So Teri has told her story to a few people over the years, and generally the response is, how could you have possibly done that, to what a jerk your ex-husband was? But it usually gets around to something like, way to go, Mike. The hero in this story is Teri, not me. Her and her baby's survival, as she said, was due to her faith, strength, supportive family, close friends, and her church. What's always been left out of this conversation is my story. At the time I met Teri, I was 32, definitely living the dream. I was an engineering manager with a good salary and had all the toys that I basically wanted. Some of these I'm proud of, some of these not so much. I did what I wanted. I was still living at home, and my contribution to the household was $150 a month in rent and cutting the lawn. I don't know exactly when, but at some point I began to realize that there had to be something more for me. My life's purpose couldn't only be to make money and have fun, although I did a good job at that for about a decade. At this stage, I didn't have much of a church or prayer life, but I did regularly ask God for help, and I have to admit that a divorced woman with twin one-year-old daughters wasn't exactly the direction that I had in mind. When I met Teri, our kids were about 4 months old. We started dating when they were 6 months, and very slowly, I started to become part of that family. When the kids were 1 year old, I told Teri I wanted out. I knew I was on the verge of a life-changing event. Cold feet, or more probably correctly, Satan had his claws in me. And you can only imagine the pain I inflicted on Teri. It was one of those not-so-proud moments. But God had different plans. I was in such turmoil that within a few weeks, I called her and proposed, and she was smart enough to say yes. So you see, I asked God for help, and he answered. I tried hard not to listen, but he was relentless. It's all good. I have to admit that going from a confirmed bachelor to a family man with 2 babies was a harsh transition. We've experienced so much, but I can tell you that nothing tops teaching 2 16-year-old girls how to drive. We made it through middle school, colleges, jobs, moving away from home, marriages. Of course, they had to both be in the same year, and now grandchildren. Looking back, I could never have imagined, never have engineered the path that Teri, the kids, and I have taken to get to this point. Only one person had that planned in mind, and it was God. He was faithful. To him be the glory, and let his name be praised. Thank you.